NFC, at number 1, San Francisco 49ers. Any key matchups that could maybe knock them out of, well, they have the tiebreaker with Philadelphia, so I think they're safe at number 1.
So Monday Night Football this week, they face the Ravens, which they could fall to. That's a tough matchup for sure. But then after that, it's the Commanders and then the Rams in Levi Stadium. So Ravens game, that'll ultimately decide if they clinch it
Yeah.
on both sides, honestly. And then after that, like they should destroy the Commanders. And then the Rams game, it might not even matter.
Yeah, it probably won't matter, and they'll probably be resting starters in that game. And then Dallas here at number 2 just lost to Buffalo, and then you have to play Detroit and Miami to end the season.
Yeah, and then they end it with the Commanders. So, I mean, I think I'm going to probably take them to beat the Dolphins. The Lions game, I got to see how they are against the Dolphins before I can pick the Lions game. I would probably pick the Lions, though, because I think the Lions just own them historically.
Yeah. Do you think, and then for Philadelphia, so I think Dallas loses one of the games between Detroit and Miami, especially since they're a completely different team on the road, averaging basically 38 at home, 21 on the road. Do you think Philadelphia, do you think they're dead in the water here and they're just going to lose one of these games to the Giants? Or do you think they get 3 wins where you're kind of just scraping your way to the finish line at the end of the year and potentially limp into a division title?
Well, they faced the Giants twice, and then the other team was the Birds and the Cardinals. So, I mean, I do think the
Cardinals
Cardinals,
could be a frisky matchup, though.
yeah, Cardinals, that's a frisky matchup. Kyler Murray playing with house money. I don't think it's crazy. The Giants, I mean, what I've seen from them the last 2 years against them, they kind of own them. But that's also with Daniel Jones. We haven't seen them against Tommy DeVito. I do think that Tommy DeVito is going to get sacked 730 times in both of those games, but there could be some upset there. They're 10-7. I'm sorry, 10-4. They had a tough game against the Seahawks, Cowboys, and Niners, but I think they're due to at least beat them this week.
Yeah.
All 3 of these teams are in the playoffs. I think this week they're going to annihilate the Giants. And then we'll see what's happening the last week of the season. Because if they're fighting for the division, then maybe they, don't rest their starters. But otherwise, they're already in the playoffs at that point. And if they feel
Yeah.
confident against the Bucks, then I think they're probably not.
Yeah, I think the Eagles can still win the division, especially with that schedule. Logic would say that, but I have to see him play the Giants one more time to confirm that before we get that buy signal and then the sell signal on the Cowboys here with their matchup this week. But I would still go Philadelphia at that 2 seed. Detroit, I think, stays right there at 3. They probably have another loss because they usually lose a game they shouldn't. And I think 11-5 is fair.
So there's sandwich like the Vikings this week and end of the season. Sandwich between that is Saturday Night Football with the Cowboys.
Saturday night. They're undefeated in prime time. So is that in Detroit?
No.
No.
I still think they can beat the
Yeah.
Cowboys, but Cowboys at home are a different beast.
Yeah.
And I think they are due for one more loss. But
We'll see.
if they win that game, though, they could be the 2 seed.
Yeah, if they win that game, they'll be the 2 seed. But yeah, I think Detroit can do it. I definitely think they can do that. Especially they're undefeated in prime time. It seems like Jared Goff rises to the occasion and he's owned the Cowboys in games past before. So I think Detroit could slip to that 2 seed there, and then they would face off against the Rams currently.
Yeah. And then for the NFC South, the highly contested NFC South, the Bucks face the Jags this week. That's a big game for both teams. And then the Saints, if they beat the Saints, they'll pretty much clinch the division at that point. Because the Saints, we're going to preview the Rams and Saints game for Thursday night. We both believe the Rams will win that game. If they beat the Saints 2 weeks from now, it's probably their division. And then they face the Panthers to beat up on the last week of the season. But we still both believe the Bucks were to win that division at that point.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's the Bucks division to lose at this point. They said you get a matchup with the Saints again here.
Yeah, so the Saints schedule, they face the Rams, then they face the Bucks, then they face the Desmond Ritter led Falcons to end it.
Okay.
So they could
Yeah.
lose out potentially.
Yeah, I definitely see them losing to the Rams, and I see them losing to the Bucks, and then you probably beat and then the game with the Falcons, it's not gonna matter at that point, so who cares? Unless you're trying to get paid on that team and want to still show you're showing some effort. But yeah, I think this is definitely Tampa's division to lose. I see Tampa finishing at 9-8.
9-8's fair. And then I've just looked at the Falcons schedule. They're gonna probably lose to the Colts this week.
Who cares?
And then
The Falcons.
once when they lose to the Colts this week, then it's like the Bears and Falcon, like they're out at that point. They can't be 6-9 and win that division.
Do you have some more of that crowd noise?
Yeah, pump that crowd noise up, Arthur Blank.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Vikings, who do they have left? Because we need to see them get out of the wild card race.
So they won that 3-0 game. They lost to the Bengals. Now they face the Lions this week. The Lions probably have that circled on their calendar. They hate the Vikings. They probably lose this game to the Lions. Then they face the Packers.
Probably lose that game.
Probably lose that game to the Packers. Then they face the Lions again.
Okay.
Lions could be resting starters potentially, but assuming they're not, I think the Lions sweep them.
Yeah, so if the Lions sweep them, they're out of the playoffs because then you have 10 losses. And then the Packers could still make it at that point. Packers are still in play. Or Seattle at 7-7. Who does Seattle have left?
So I have the Packers pulled up real quick. They face the Panthers this week. They got to beat them. They have to. Then they face the Vikings. They have to win that game. And then they face the Bears. Packers still have a chance. They would have to be 9-8.
Was that in Chicago?
No, Lambeau.
Lambeau?
And
That's
guess who owns the Bears? The Packers.
the Packers.
We saw what happened earlier in the season.
Yeah.
Seahawks. They're back in the mix because they beat the Eagles. They face the Titans this week. 1:00 game.
They should win that.
Then they face the Steelers next week. Tough game.
In Seattle though, I do not see the Steelers rising to the occasion on the road.
Not even with Mason Rudolph.
No.
Then they face the Birds to end it. The Cardinals.
The Cardinals. Okay. Well, you have to win that game.
Yeah.
So I think, I could see Seattle making it
They'll be 9-8.
9-8. Yeah. They're going to be right there with the Green Bay Packers at 9-8. Who has the tiebreaker?
Between the two, I don't know if they face this year or not. I think the Packers might have it. Oh, the Packers beat them earlier in the season, so they would win.
Okay. So the Packers would be in the playoffs, and then the Rams probably slide up to that 6th seed. Packers are the 7th seed, and then it'd be Packers, Cowboys. Oh, what an upset. Aaron Jones turning back the clock in that game. That would be electric.
Yeah, so I think that the Vikings are going to fall out of it. It's either going to be the Packers or the Seahawks that eclipse them. Packers got to win out to do it, though. And then if it's the Seahawks, great. If not, then I think the Rams are pretty much in there.
Yeah.
And then the Eagles Cowboys clinch to that 5 seed.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not mad at that.
Not at all.
I feel like that is good. And then right now, the AFC, it's probably the best matchups possible.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind the Bills sneaking into the playoffs, but I do like the teams that are in the playoffs currently. I don't think the Texans should make it, though, at this point.
No, definitely not.
We'll see them next year, though, when they sign T. Higgins.
Yeah, when they sign T. Higgins or trade for George Pickens.
That would be sick.
Because they're not dumb like Patriots fans. They're not going to be like, oh, even though Tyquan Thornton sucks, he doesn't have a bad attitude when he doesn't get thrown the ball by one of the worst draft busts in NFL history in Mitch Trubisky. Or, I don't know, the guy who may or may not have dropped a specific word that you don't say to another man, especially the size of Myles Garrett, where Myles Garrett tried to hit him over the head with a helmet.
Yeah, don't say the gamer word to Myles Garrett. That's not good.
That's not good, but we did preview all the playoff matchups right now. So liking how it's taking shape in the AFC right now with the Broncos falling out of it. And with the Vikings, they have 2 games left with the Lions. So hopefully the Lions take care of business there.